Hey there, I'm Amy Connell. Welcome to Graced Health, the podcast for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate in the process. I'm a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. Okay, typically I like to open up my solo episodes with a story. These will help us kind of set the stage and hopefully get you feeling like, all right, we're in this together, and maybe give you a little peek into my life. But I mean, really, do I really need to have a story about stress? I don't think so. I think if I were standing in front of an audience, which I hope to do again one day, we'll see whenever that happens. And if I said, raise your hand if you have felt stress over the past year. And this is airing at the end of April, 2021. I guarantee, can I bet some money on this? I think I would. What would I bet? I don't know. But I know every single hand in that room would go up. Yes, we have all felt stress. COVID has brought on much more stress, I think, than we ever expected. I know that some of us have been supporting a partner who has been working on the front line. Some of us have lost loved ones. Some of us have endured job losses or changes in the roles of our job. And then, there's been a little bit lower, a lower intensity, but still stressful. I know at my house, we went through 3 quarantines from my, one of my son's athletic teams. We dealt with a COVID response with one of my kids, which, it wasn't terrible. Thank you, God. But, it was still, it was still stressful. I mean, like, how do you feed someone who eats a tremendous amount of every day, and keep them safe and keep them out of milling around the kitchen? And obviously that's a very, very small example, so that pales in comparison to the stress that a lot of people have had. But I want to acknowledge that. However, if you are listening to this at the end of April 2022, and COVID is in our rearview mirror, I don't think it's ever going away, but we have kind of gotten over that hump and we're kind of getting back to the new normal, you're still going to be you're still going to be experiencing stress on one way or another. I think it's really easy right now to be like, oh yeah, it was, this is stressful. COVID is stressful. It was fine before. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. We were all stressed, and they're just different kinds of it. So regardless of when you're listening to this, I want to honor you where you are with your stress level. I want to spend our conversation today talking about how our stress impacts our exercise. Okay, so I know that you can probably go out there and find a million different Healthline and BuzzFeed and WebMD articles about how stress impacts your body. So I'm not going to rehash any of that. Because of my personal trainer side and, quite honestly, my super geeky side, I want to take this and pigeonhole this discussion a little bit into your exercise, your workouts, your movement. So that way you can kind of have a full picture on what is happening on the inside of your body and how you can best deal with that going forward in terms of your exercise. So I want to cover a few different things today. We are going to talk some about how stress can actually be beneficial, particularly with regards to your workout. We'll talk about the physiological impacts of stress and what that does to our body, how it impacts your body, and then how to manage this all from a workout perspective. Okay, now how can stress be beneficial? There are 2 reasons that I can see that it can actually be beneficial. Number one, it does provide you that fight or flight response. This is important. If a bear comes into your backyard, you have to run away from it. I don't think a bear's coming in. Well, a bear might come in your backyard, but it's not coming in my backyard. But it's just that stress response, right? It gives us that energy to get our body into a safe space because that's what we want to do. So there's definitely that. Now, the other benefit that a lot of people don't think about, and quite honestly, I don't even always think about it, is the impact that cortisol has on your energy metabolism. So what happens is when you first start exercising, that cortisol helps support the energy metabolism by facilitating breakdown of free fatty acids to be used for fuel, like during your, fueling your workout. What are free fatty acids? Those are several different things. They have functions like receptor signaling, gene expression, and regulation of systemic fuel energy homeostasis under various physiological conditions. Okay, I'm just going to quote all of that and you can find the source later on. But really, as it relates to the discussion that we're having today, they are an energy source for body tissues like your muscles. So what happens is when you start exercising, your body releases cortisol. It's like, oh, okay, we're moving, we're going to get going. And it will help fuel your muscles by breaking down the free fatty acids that are in your bloodstream. So like if you have ever heard about a fasted cardio, that's what is happening here. So this small amount of cortisol in your system really does help you in your workout. Now, back to the fasted cardio, it's important that that is something that is a moderate to low intensity, not super high intensity, because cortisol levels are highest in the morning, and exercising at a low intensity will ensure that the fats are used for fuel before your carbs. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. When you take your exercise to more of a moderate to high level intensity, for that lasts longer than 45 to 60 minutes, then the glycogen in your muscles, which is where your that is the stored energy in your muscles, that depletes because we've been working for 45 to 60 minutes. Then cortisol is released again, which converts to amino acids into the glycogen that we need to fuel exercise. But we're like done exercising for the most part, right? Like, I mean, this is very different than, marathons and stuff like that. So what happens is cortisol is released and then the body experiences too much physical stress, which leads us to number 2, to the second point that I want to make about the physiological impacts of stress. Okay, so when our body is under stress for too long and we have all of this cortisol floating around and it's not being used, then what happens? Well, it can be stored in your body because where else is it going to go? So what can happen? So what happens when it's stored in your body? It can alter the effectiveness to regulate your inflammatory system and your immune system. So we're talking about if you have any kind of anti-inflammatory issues and you get inflamed easily, like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, all of that kind of stuff. If you are susceptible to colds, all of this can be impacted if you have too much cortisol in your system. So obviously your cortisol is affected by just general stress, but it's also affected by too much working out. Now, just like some stress is beneficial, some inflammation is beneficial. But when we have that inflammation over a long period of time in a chronic way, it can lead to constant tissue breakdown. And then again, that impairment of the immune system. Then what happens is stress people's immune cells tend to be less sensitive to cortisol. So then they're unable to use the cortisol to regulate your inflammatory response. Not only does this perpetuate the problem of inflammation and immune system, then we just have cortisol floating around our body. Now, this is probably what you have heard when you've heard about, oh my gosh, cortisol belly. I don't know about you, but I see all this kind of stuff. Like I see it in Instagram ads and Facebook ads and that kind of stuff. But stress can impact or increase your body fat because all of the excess cortisol that is floating around may be stored in your body as adipose tissue, which is your fat. And I don't really like using that word, so I like to use adipose as much as possible. But basically, they're stored until they're needed, just like excess carbohydrates, just like excess protein, just like excess fat. If we have too much stuff floating around our body, more than likely we're going to store it because our bodies don't really know. They're like, well, I don't know. I might need this again. She might work, we just don't know. So we're going to hold on to it until later. Now let's go into the third part. How does that impact your exercise? Okay, so we've learned that all of this excess cortisol from our excess stress, however that may be, can increase your inflammation. Now, if we're just in this normal state and we go to the gym or we do a body weight workout or whatever that is, and we have a great workout, we wake up about 24 hours later, maybe 48 hours later, we're kind of sore, we are somewhat inflamed. So a little bit of inflammation is good. But then if we stay in that inflamed level, then when we walk into that next workout, we're already inflamed. Our body has already reacted to a situation from a couple days ago or yesterday or earlier in the day. And that is when you are more susceptible to injury, quite frankly. And if you've been listening to me long enough, particularly if you have been with me since the beginning of this Graced Health journey, when I really talked a lot about exercise related stuff in season 1, you know that injury prevention is probably my number one concern. If you're injured, you can't do any of the things that we like to do to strengthen our heart and make us feel better and not feel breathless or, let's be honest, there's a little bit of vanity involved, right? Like, let's look better in our clothes or something like that. So staying injury-free is so, so important. The other thing that I'd like to point out about how all of these effects of stress can impact your exercise is there's this little bit of a snowball effect. So if you are under stress and you don't have a very good workout, and by the way, when I say under stress, that might be a very short-term response to something that just happened. For example, if you didn't sleep well last night, I don't know about you, but I've been going in these phases where I'm just not sleeping super great for several hours. And I wake up and my Apple Watch tells me that I got significantly less sleep than I was hoping to get than you would have thought when I went to bed. That's not a good night's sleep. And my body is reacting to that already. So even something short like that, but if you've, had a issue with your partner or with your children or at work or something like that, and that might impact your workout. And then you're left leaving frustrated because it wasn't a very good workout. And we all have bad workouts. And sometimes, by the way, it's for no particular reason at all. It just happens. So sometimes we just can't go down the path of well, why didn't I work out? But regardless, it's going to leave you frustrated. Guess what that's going to do? That's going to increase your stress level. So then you're going to have all of that inflammation floating around your body, and then you're going to go in the next time and it might not be not be a good workout again. So that's going to impact your exercise as well. You're going to, to summarize in this section, you are going to increase your chance of getting injured because you are consistently inflamed, and you may not have a good workout, which can snowball into something else. And the other thing that I think is really important to point out, and I'll just go ahead and do this here, is the criticalness. Is that a word? We'll just say it's a word. How critical it is to give your body rest in between workouts. And I'm going to get into that here in the next section. That's a good leadway into how to manage this from a workout perspective. So we have been stressed over the last year. We have been stressed before that, and we will continue to be in the future. This is just part of life. And I do want you exercising through this. Absolutely, I do. So I'm actually going to start with that, because what happens when you exercise at that moderate level, it's going, low to moderate level, your body will utilize that stress or that cortisol that's floating around, and it will help break down the free fatty acids. It will be used for fuel. Don't be afraid to exercise when you work out. And I know a lot of you like to use exercise as a coping mechanism, and which is a positive thing to stressful situations. How many of us have talked about going off and running off the crazy, or, going to a boxing class and just punching out all of our frustrations? These are good things. I'm not saying don't do them. can keep doing them, but I want you to keep a few things in mind as we go through there. But backing up, before we even get to that, how can we manage this from a workout perspective? How can we manage our stress level and our cortisol and all of the impacts that it has? Number one, get your sleep in. I know it sounds like a broken record. I know we hear this everywhere, but it's just true. So what happens is your lack of sleep can elevate your sympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is what activates that fight or flight. That's what releases the cortisol. So again, just kind of that snowball effect and all of that. So get your sleep. If you are working out with a personal trainer and you have a terrible night's sleep, please let them know. They should take that into consideration. They should treat your body differently on a poorly rested night than a really well-rested night. Things do not always go according to plan in anything. We know this. So adjust your workouts as necessary. Keep moving, but take the intensity level down. Okay, another thing to manage your stress, meditate. I know you know this. I will tell you one of the greatest things and most applicable ways of meditating that I have read recently is from Dr. Len Kravitz. And again, I talk about him, all kinds of talk about him in the in season 1, where I really dig into a lot of exercise science. But he is a prominent researcher with regard to exercise science. And he recommends this. Breathe in, and you're focusing on your breath, and say to yourself, I am. And then exhale and say, calm. I am calm. I am calm. And that can take you into a little bit more, or it can take you into a meditative state, but it will keep your mind engaged. Because if you have the, what do they call it? Monkey brain, where it's just going like, tick, 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 tick. I call it a ping pong thing. I get that. I get it too. And it will kind of help keep your brain on a loop of what to think about, which will take it into that meditative state. I have been using the Calm app and I do like it. I recommend it. My one challenge with that is the one that comes up on the daily Calm is 10 minutes. And I just, it's just hard to do 10 minutes sometimes. Like sometimes my watch tells me to breathe and I'm like, I don't have a minute. I don't want to take the minute. I do have a minute. I don't want to take the minute to do that. So find the best approach to taking the minute or 3 or 10. Accountability partners are great for this. James Clear in the book Atomic Habits, recommends just kind of checking the box off of. And, I know that last month I talked about the difference between motivation and mania. And so again, it's just keeping that motivation intrinsic in what you're wanting to do and not being, not feeling like, well, I got to check off the box, anything like that. I'm not helping with the whole meditative Zen state. So we're just going to move on. Okay. Keeping yourself out of a high stress, high inflammatory, low immune state. Try to watch your diet as best you can. Eat anti-inflammatory foods, things like cherries, berries, ginger, cruciferous vegetables, fatty fish, avocados, green tea, peppers, mushrooms, grapes, turmeric, olive oil. Yes, I looked this up on the internet to get a good list of it. I will tell you too, tart cherries are great. And I have no affiliation with this place except for that I buy, I purchase from them on a regular basis, but King Orchards.com has a really great offering of tart cherries. They have a tart cherry concentrate that, you can have just a small amount, like 1 ounce, and add it to either a shake or even water, or if you want to shoot it, you can shoot it however you want. But tart cherries really have a lot of great anti-inflammatory properties to it. They also have just dried tart cherries in capsule form. There's nothing else in there. And that's another way that you can get it that is a little less sugar, because let's be honest, if you're going to be having cherry juice every day, you kind of need to take that into consideration with how much sugar you're having, if sugar is something that you are watching. But kingorchards.com, I'll put that in the show notes. Again, they have no idea who I am, except I make a purchase from them every now and then. They have great stuff. Okay, I talked about this a little bit in terms of managing your stress from a workout perspective and managing that cortisol, but keep moving. Now, when I say keep moving, this is going to be a little bit of a complicated point. I want you to move for sure. Keep it, most of your exercises, and if you're like me, and if you are over 40, this particularly pertains to you, but most of those should be low to moderate intensity most days a week. High intensity workouts are fantastic. I love them. They're my favorite things to do. I'm also a little crazy. I know that. But you want to limit those to no more than 3 times a week. Why 3 times? Because you've got to give your body enough time to recover from them to do it again. And I want to go back to the low to moderate intensity. More than likely, a strength training workout is going to be a moderate intensity level because you're not going to be getting to that bent over, hands on the knees, breathless state. You will breathe hard. Yes, this is good. You can absolutely get cardiovascular benefits from strength training. Keep doing your strength training. That's really good for you to do. But in terms of the super high intensity workouts, no more than 3 times a week. And I would say have at least 1 low to moderate workout for every high intensity. If you want to learn a little bit more about high intensity training, or HIIT training as it's called, you can check out season 1, episode 3, all about HIIT training. The other thing to remember, and this is one of the other wonderful benefits of exercise, is 20 minutes of moderate exercise can actually increase your serotonin levels, according to Dr. Kelly McGonigal, who wrote this in The Joy of Movement. And this is actually one of the quotes that I use in my upcoming book because it's so important. Absolutely go get moving. And, if you've heard of the runner's high, you can get the runner's high doing anything movement, just keeping it at that moderate intensity, 20 minutes or more. So that's also a really great way to get our brain, all of the good feel-good hormones going in our brain, and then using the stress hormones that are floating around our body and they're wanting to be used. They don't want to settle out into our adipose. They want to be used. And so you're kind of getting a double bang for your buck. If you've been working out a long time, it can be hard to get your brain wrapped around the fact that you do not have to go slam your face against the wall with every single workout. I actually want to say that again in case you're new with me. You do not have to have an effective workout solely by breathing as hard as you can and sweating as much as you can and just seeing how big the pool of sweat underneath your indoor cycle bike is, or whatever that may be. Workouts are effective when done on a holistic level. Look at your week and what are you doing? Yes, absolutely get your high intensity workout in. I'm a huge proponent of it. If you, Pete McCall talked a lot about it on season 9, episode 1. So I'm not saying don't do that, but I am saying don't do them every day. Please, please, please don't do them every day. You can go listen to Pete's episode. You can listen to my episode. However I can get you to not slam your face against the wall every time you work out is how it can do. Okay. And now, the final piece of advice on managing your stress from a workout perspective. I'm going to use a word that is not used a lot in the fitness industry. But if you've been with me a while, you know that I'm not like a lot of the fitness industry. So here's the word: gentle. Be gentle with yourself. If you haven't slept well, if you have been dealing with a job that has required you to be on the front lines for a year, if you have lost a loved one, and I don't care if that loved one was lost back in April, it is still hard. The grieving process is still there. Where are you? And can you be a little more gentle with yourself? And that includes giving yourself some grace. Please don't apply where you are right now to where you were before COVID, before a job change, before having a child, whatever that stress point is. We all change, we all evolve, and our bodies do too. And how we respond to movement does as well. I don't know about you, but I'm really glad that I am not the Amy that was when I was 22. Y'all, I was judgy. I mean, I was black and white. It's yes or no, red or green. I was a nutcase with my exercise. And I had a serious headspace issue with like shaming myself for food. And I've changed. I've evolved. That doesn't mean I don't have issues every now and then, but I have changed. My body has too. I can't do the same things that I did back then because I'm more than twice my age now. So allow yourself to be met where you are today. And don't hold yourself accountable to where you think you should be. Hold yourself accountable to what your body's asking for today. If you have been chronically stressed, just start by going walking. That's all I want you doing. And bike riding or whatever works for you. But start low and then add some things in. Even if you were a gym rat and you were working out with a trainer or working out with a small group or at a CrossFit studio or all of the things that we love to do, and that came to a screeching halt in March of 2020, that's not what you need to be stepping back into. You need to step into the space where your body is right now, and you can get back there more than likely, but not yet. Not yet. You will, but give yourself time, give your body time to do that. And if you need to figure out how to apply a little grace to your health, go back to season 3, episode 9. And I did a whole episode on this, 5 ways to apply grace in your health. Okay. So let's recap really quickly. Some stress, yes, can be beneficial. It's good for fight or flight. It's good for fueling energy for 45 minutes or less, basically fueling that moderate to high intensity energy. However, prolonged stress, whether it is exercise or life related, that will increase your cortisol. If it's not used, then it will be deposited. It may be deposited into your adipose tissue. Excuse me. How does that impact your exercise? It will increase your inflammation. It will decrease your immune system, and can really lead into a snowball effect because you get frustrated, and that just kind of keeps going. Managing it from a workout perspective. Number 1, make sure you're getting your sleep. Try meditating if you can. I am calm. Eat your inflammatory foods. Keep moving. This is another thing that I forgot to mention, but it was on my notes, and so I'm just going to say it now. Increase your NEAT, which I talk about in season 1, episode 2. By the way, I have not listened to these episodes in a while, and that was a whole lot of episodes ago. I think I'm up to about 150 episodes. So listen at your own risk. Maybe one of these days I'll go back and redo them. But I was definitely kind of green then. So the content is good. The content is solid. The production level might not be as great. And I think that you can just give me some grace on that. But anyway, your NEAT, going back, I digress. Your NEAT is the fancy word. It's non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically, it's movement that is not formal exercise. So this is the stuff like parking away when you go to the grocery store and walking to your children's room to ask them a question rather than texting it to them. These are all examples of my own, by the way. And just any of this natural movement that is not formal exercise. So try and increase that as best as you can. And then getting back to our little summary, limit your high intensity workouts to no more than 3 times a week, and have at least 1 low to moderate workout for every high intensity workout. And finally, be gentle. be gentle, give yourself some grace. And that is going to be my one simple thing that I want you to remember. I'm just going to go ahead and jump to that before I get to kind of my closing words. And that is, I just want to remind you of all of the resources that I have over at gracedhealth.com/resources. Whether you're looking for something food related or fitness related or faith related, I have something for everyone over there. I have a 14-day body image and health devotional. I have scriptures to pray over your health. If you want something faith related, I have protein breakfasts that are on the go. If you want some food related stuff, I have my new free workout program. These are all free, by the way. Squat free, strong legs. So if you can't squat, but you still want to strengthen your legs, this is for you. Anyway, it is all over there. Please go take a look at it. And don't forget to join our Graced Health community group over on Facebook. I will have the link to that, and I invite you to join us over there. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day.